Welcome back to The Good, the Bad, and the Kino. This week, Moses and I are talking about the 1999 Spike Jonze film written by Charlie Kaufman, Being John Malkovich. And surprise, surprise, I have a desk this week, so that means you won't have to look at my
Wow.
legs
Oh.
if you're watching the video version.
Now, sadly, we can't look at your legs anymore, Ryan.
Yeah, I know.
We wanted to look at the
sweet,
legs.
sweet bear skin.
Ooh.
All that nice leg hair.
Yeah.
But yeah, this week we picked a very, I wouldn't say different film. It's just it's a Charlie Kaufman film, and we've only seen two films of his,
but different films. So
different films.
We've both seen Being John Malkovich, obviously, since that's what we're talking about this week. But also, I've seen Adaptation, and you've seen Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, which I know that being a film student and not seeing Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind might get me locked up, but it's the truth.
It's part of one of my courses this year, actually. So it truly is a film student.
No, it is it's up there as a film. It's up there. It's up there with Pulp Fiction and all those.
Yeah, but it's one of those where people talk about it, but you watch it and you're like, I get it. I understand. You really get it. But even from having seen different films, I think we both can recognize the Charlie Kaufman presence in a film, his distinct style, and reading up on,
or at least early on in his career. I think maybe his stuff that he's directed, which we've seen none of, but we want to watch. I think those films, they seem to be a little bit different. They seem maybe more mature almost. They do. Not that they're more adult, but it seems like, I don't know, more grounded almost.
I think that I'm interested
surreal.
I'm still interested to see his films, his later films, because I read something today that I think is actually a great way of describing him, and only again having seen 2 of the 8 films he's written, and again the films that he's written and directed, there's overlap there. So the 3 he's directed, he's also written himself. So from only seeing a quarter of his films, and I agree with the statement, it's that Charlie Kaufman makes basically film philosophy for the popular culture, and that he makes the idea of the consciousness and what it means to feel and think for yourself and to be in someone else's shoes, and in this film in a literal sense, and Eternal Sunshine in a more metaphysical sense. He makes it digestible, and that's something about this film I really admired, because as crazy as this film is, which it is a wild film, and at least for me, in the best possible way. I think that it's still easy to follow. It's coherent. You still get what the film's trying to say, what the film's about, and that you still walk away with what its larger themes are without being, I think, played around with, or it trying to be ooh, see how smart I am. And again, you've seen Adaptation, so maybe it's different. From these 2, I don't feel that
I don't
way.
want to say too much about Adaptation, because I'll say it now. That's what we're talking about next week on the podcast. They kind of work as a double feature, since in Adaptation, they literally show John Malkovich being filmed, and Catherine Keener playing herself is a minor character in that. But that movie, I felt like it was less philosophical than what you're describing, and it's just more. It's weird, but it's not it's not supernatural science fiction like Being John Malkovich is. It's just
Eternal Sunshine.
It's meta. It's self-referential, and it's less philosophical in the sense that it's about the process of adapting a book into a movie, and it's about that process, and it's very meta on multiple levels. So it's not exactly what you're describing. So I'm interested in exploring the rest of his filmography, based on what you've just said.
I am too. I mean,
Adaptation was not really that 100%.
No, but you can tell. I mean, I don't know really much about Synecdoche, New York, but Anomalisa and his new film, I'm Thinking of Ending Things, definitely fall into the category, at least from what it looks like, into the the Eternal Sunshine of Being John Malkovich category.
Well, the little I know about Anomalisa is that it's, of course, all puppets, stop motion, and he co-directed it, and his co-director is the stop motion guy, basically, the puppet guy. And that movie.
Here, let me look up his name.
I just know that it's rated R and there's like stop motion puppets sex. That's quite rough.
Yeah.
What people have told me. And I also know that there's only 3.
But not in a Team America kind of way.
No. And there's only 3 voice actors. One for each of the leads, and then one person.
Yeah, this one. That's interesting. Yeah, it says that. It says Tom Newman. It cast as everyone else.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So
the co-director on that is Duke Johnson, who also was involved in making. If this actually pulls up, he was he helped make parts of Community.
Yeah, I saw that. I looked it up. He looked up the stop motion episodes of Community.
Yes, he did.
Wow, I saw that this week when I was looking through it. So he really got someone, which is interesting because like Wes Anderson does not have a credited co-director for his stop motion films. You know, it's just him.
No.
But here
it's just him. Yeah.
Very explicitly, someone who helped with the stop motion element. But we're not talking about Anomalisa this week or of Cinefic New York or Adaptation. We're talking about Being John Malkovich. We both saw it for the first time. I thought you'd actually seen this before.
No, I've wanted to really run through Kaufman's filmography for a long time because I've always been really enamored with Eternal Sunshine, and I've just heard glowing things about literally all of his films except for one, which we mentioned before we started recording.
Human Nature, I think.
So 7 out of 8 films where like they're all critically applauded, and like there's something deep and weighty to each of them. To me, is really enticing, and I wanted to start with this because it's his first film, but also it's one of his most critically acclaimed films.
Also, Spike Jonze's directorial debut.
Right. You've seen.
Yeah, I've seen every feature-length narrative Spike Jonze film. He's actually only made 4, but he's made like a billion other things, including ads, music videos, live concert. Saying that I've seen these 4 films is nothing compared to his actual filmography.
The archetypal like what a film is, narrative film, like you said.
It's very funny though. Spike Jonze's filmography, you can really split it in 2. There's 2 films that he directed were written by Charlie Kaufman.
Yeah.
And then 2 films I think he wrote himself. Her and Where the Wild.
Let me look up Her.
Her he wrote himself because he won an Oscar for it.
That's right. Yeah. Her is probably my favorite of his films so far.
I have an unpopular opinion on Her, where I think it's okay.
I love Her. I think that's a very profound film.
It's not my least favorite of his films. That's Where the Wild Things Are, because that movie.
Yeah, that's a boring film.
So I don't say this about a lot of things, and I read the book growing up. I know exactly what it's going for, but I was bored to tears watching it. I was too. It's really.
I was a kid when I saw it, and I was still bored.
Oh my god! I think that would make me more bored. I like the monster effects, whatever, the creature effects. Awesome! It looks amazing.
Cinematography is very good. Yeah.
But I was so bored, and I was actually really looking forward to it.
Very boring film.
So you can really split his filmography. Those 4 films you can split into 2 categories. So did he write Where the Wild Things Are?
Let me check for Where the Wild Things Are. You are right that he did write Her.
And he won an Oscar for it, if
I believe. Yes, he did. Wait, did he? Let me double check. Let me double back to the Spike Jonze page. I've gone back to the Charlie Kaufman page. But so yes, one Oscar, which I imagine is for Her.
You're doing a Jamie this episode, and just
holding up. I've got my laptop. Yeah. He won best screenplay for Her. And then let me see for. Did Adaptation win best screenplay? No, it didn't.
No, it didn't. I don't think.
No, I think because Kaufman's only won 1 screenplay award. Yeah, Spike Jonze did write it with Dave Eggers. Where the Wild Things Are.
Okay. So yeah.
Yes. So, anyways, what are your overall thoughts on this film?
Yeah, and Charlie Kaufman did win an Oscar for Eternal Sunshine.
Okay. Yeah.
I thought maybe it was for Being John Malkovich, but no. So my thoughts on this movie, it's really good. It's very good, but I just had a hard time some of the time really getting into it because the characters are so unbelievably unlikable.
Yeah.
Which just I was like, I don't care about some of these people. It's just like
I didn't find myself caring for anyone, but I quickly understood that the point of the film early on is that people who are like that level of narcissistic end up isolating themselves, and that was kind of the overall point of the film, and how that level of narcissism and ego not only distances yourself from others around you, but distances yourself from yourself. And the film's very much about the consciousness, and John Cusack has that line early on, which I really like. It's consciousness is a curse or something like that, but he says to think, to feel, to suffer.
Lines of the film.
Yeah, and I like how he ties that together. So no, I did not like any character in this film. The only person I maybe sympathized with was John Malkovich, because he's basically being used.
Yeah, that's true, and also to an extent, Lottie some of the time.
Some of the time, earlier on,
you definitely feel more for her. I think the worst would be
definitely John Cusack.
Yeah, Jesus.
Yeah.
By the end of the
movie,
for
a while I thought maybe Maxine, but no. John Cusack's character definitely takes the cake.
He also gets the worst ending.
Oh, I don't know. I see. That's another thing. I can't wait to talk about the ending.
You're right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. The very ending.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just so interesting. So I mean, I think for me, I loved this movie because when it started, I had an idea of what it was, and it's gonna be this kind of quirky comedy, and it was kind of weird, but it was still kind of funny, and it was interesting, and then it became kind of dark and this kind of story about infidelity, and then it kind of switched around to now it's a story about how Lottie wants to be a man and be transsexual,
or is a man,
sorry,
or is a man.
Hold on, Moses, you cut out there.
You cut out for a second.
There you go. You're back.
Sorry. Yeah. I was talking about how Lottie is a man, and they want to get gender reassignment surgery.
Yeah. After her first experience of being inside John Malkovich, she sees herself as a man now.
Yeah, they see themselves as a man now. It's very out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I had never heard about that element of the film before.
Yeah, me neither. And then it becomes the crux of the film.
Yeah, and
because the film becomes a love triangle between John Cusack and Lottie and Maxine, and you're that's really interesting. And then John Malkovich comes into play by kind of finding out what's really going on with his head, and then John Cusack takes over John Malkovich, and then him and Maxine become a thing. It's just every 20 minutes or so it completely changed, but it all worked together. And I haven't seen a film that genuinely I found that unpredictable and that surprising in its narrative and the way it unfolded, that I had such a great time watching it, even though it is a dark film in some spots. I just found it so entertaining in the way it eventually ended up playing out. I thought it was a wild film, but in the best possible way. I really loved it.
I'm really interested in what you have to say next week, because Adaptation I enjoyed more than this.
No, I'm
very excited.
I have a general idea. I have a general idea of what Adaptation's about. And did you know? Because actually doing some research today, and I wonder if you know this. I haven't seen the film.
So he's credited as writing it with his brother, and they were both nominated for an Oscar. But so for anyone who's listening who doesn't know, it has to do with the plot of the movie. But Charlie, the movie, it's the writer of Adaptation. It's credited as being Charlie Kaufman and I think Donald Kaufman, and the script was nominated for an Oscar, and they were like, shit. Well, Donald Kaufman's a fictional person, and they didn't. So they were like, what are we going to do? But actually, more interesting, there's a similar story that has to do with Fargo. Do you know this story? With the Coen brothers? So the Coen brothers with Fargo, they produced it, directed it, and wrote it, and they didn't want it to seem like they did every job, so they also edited it, but they didn't want everyone knowing that they edited it, so they gave a fake name for the editor, and then the movie was nominated for best editing.
Really?
And they were like, shit. And they were like supposedly prepared to like hire like an actor to accept the award on stage or whatever.
Really?
Yeah, but of course it didn't win.
It didn't end up winning.
No, and
Oh,
I
yeah,
think
okay.
they still use that alias on all their projects for editing, if they edit their own stuff still.
Wow.
But yeah,
I didn't know that at all.
Similar story.
Sneaky.
Apparently, I haven't read it. I read about that a couple years ago. So yeah, going back to the movie.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to start with the things that we weren't as enamored with, because I really only have one big issue with the film.
Go ahead.
And to me, it was the weird subplot that didn't really end up going anywhere, and I felt like if you had taken out, wouldn't have really made a difference, which was the subplot of Lester and all these old people who want to live forever.
Oh,
that
how they
was like go inside people's heads.
That reminded me of Get Out.
Yeah, it did.
No,
yeah,
and
it did,
I also do know that Jordan Peele is very much aware that he has Catherine Keener in Get Out in a mind swapping movie similar to
Being John Malkovich.
Yeah.
But I just found that subplot to be a bit like, oh, that's kind of out of nowhere, and then like it doesn't really. Like, they don't really do anything in the end. Like, yeah, okay, well, they go into John Malkovich's mind, and then at the end, John Malkovich with like those people inside him are like, I found a way to like live forever. It's just like, well, that storyline doesn't really pan out, and I felt like it didn't really, like, I didn't really see the point in it. I found it more distracting and trying to understand the logic of that subplot.
It did act as a plot device to get John Cusack out of John Malkovich's head. At the end.
Yeah, but I feel like because Lottie already had this hate for Maxine and for John Cusack, she could kidnap Maxine and have that all play out the exact same way, just without those people. Because every time they popped up, I was trying to focus on, all right, well, the logic of this he's explained means that, but then does that mean this and that? And then like, I don't know, I just found myself distracted by it rather than it like absorbing me further into the film. And it's more of a minor complaint than a major one, but I found it to be distracting.
I do like how it ties in at the end with being John Malkovich at the end being Martin, who built the building or whatever, and he's like talking to old Charlie Sheen.
That was also fun. Oh, the cameos as well.
Well,
there's some great cameos.
I basically did a spit take when David Fincher popped on screen.
David Fincher and Sean Penn, Charlie Sheen, like they got some very good cameos.
Yeah, but like Charlie Sheen and Sean Penn, that doesn't surprise me. But like out of nowhere, David Fincher not playing himself as well. By the way, Charlie Sheen and Sean Penn played themselves, but then you've got David Fincher playing someone else.
The Sean Penn one surprised me the most, because Sean Penn's so known for being like such a pretentious, like, I know so much about film, and like he's in this like directorial screenwriter debut film, and like.
But at that point, I think.
Yeah, it was just I found it weird that he
Charlie Kaufman were like really like industry types, even though they Spike Jonze. I confused the Spikes. Spike Jonze at that point was like, I think, a very, very established person in the industry.
Spike Jonze
Spike Jonze directed
so many music videos.
It was just like one of those things where it was a matter of time until he directed his own movie.
That's true.
It didn't surprise me that much, but I was like, the David Fincher. It's not. I'm surprised they didn't get him, but it's like, oh, okay, why not? I guess he's in
the David Fincher one was fun because he popped up and even you.
Send Your Fight Club came out, right?
Yeah. What a great film year for cerebral type films.
No, people list 1999 as one of the better years for film.
I need to see what else came out that year.
The Matrix.
Oh yeah, The Matrix. Yeah, that is a fucking great year for film.
And The Phantom Menace.
Ooh. We'll move on from that.
Have you heard about how people think that the prequels are like amazing because they're actually like Shakespearean, and people
Yep.
miss the point when they're making fun of the dialogue.
Yep.
People
Yep.
will dilute themselves into believing whatever they want to believe.
Yep.
It's fun.
I get. You know what?
That's
The third one I think is still
the,
very good, but no,
you know what that effect
not the
is?
others.
It's I grew up on these movies, so now I have to justify my
Yeah.
enjoyment for it. You're allowed to
Yeah.
like whatever you want to like from your childhood.
You can like them, but don't tell other people that they're missing out on something.
Or don't like come up with like excuses saying the dialogue is Shakespearean.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
Enjoyment. You don't need to
I know so many people who love the Jim Carrey Grinch film.
You're allowed
because they
to
grew
love
up with it and they love it.
Yeah.
I hate that film. But like no one is ever like, well, you're missing the point because like it's really a commentary on society and like all these deeper themes.
Yeah.
Like it's not trying to do that. And like
90s kids love Space
Jam.
Jam.
Do that.
But
I can't remember Space Jam since I was a kid. So
apparently, from all accounts, Space Jam is like if you didn't see it as a child, it's very bad.
Yeah. It doesn't surprise me.
But like people love it, and now there's a new one coming out with LeBron James. Which they recently released a picture of. But
yeah,
I don't see anyone being like, Space Jam is actually Kafkaesque. That's why I like it.
Oh God, that's a gross argument. I don't like hearing that.
Yeah, you don't hear that. It's actually Brechtian, and that's why it's good. Yeah.
Freud, yes. Just let's just name off all psychologists and philosophers. Just as many as we can.
Brecht was a playwright, but sure.
Was he?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That was very dumb of me then. My bad. I'll fully admit that was very stupid of me to say that.
You just played yourself. No, but Kafka.
I really did.
Kafka's a writer, but
Kafka, yeah.
But you could still fit that as a philosophy. It works.
Yeah, he's definitely a part of philosophy. Kafka is, anyways. But anyways, back to speaking of philosophy.
It's actually Nietzsche.
Nietzsche. Oh,
that's philosophy.
That is true philosophy. So jumping back into philosophy.
Not to make you seem dumber, but also Freud was not philosophy; he was psychology.
Yeah, that's what I said. Let's name all the philosophers and psychologists.
Oh, sorry.
Ooh, now who played themselves in that?
Now I did it to myself.
Still me.
Ryan, this is why we
talk about film.
Yeah, this is why we never talk about anything that isn't film, because we are absolute dumbasses. The second we step out of our comfort zone.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's a film and film only.
Yeah.
Maybe some English because we have to write, but other than that,
really, not even that, man. Not even that.
All right, well let's jump back onto Being John Malkovich, because speaking of philosophy, other than the unlikable characters, what were some of the other things that kind of detracted from the experience for you, if there's anything you can pinpoint?
Nothing I can exactly pinpoint. I think most of it emanates from the fact that I'm just like, these characters suck so bad. So it's not that they're losers or they're like whatever. It's that they're actively bad people. Sorry to harken back to Adaptation again, or harken forward to next week. But Adaptation, the characters are the main character is Charlie Kaufman is a loser. He's not purposely doing things that are evil. Sometimes he does shitty things, but he doesn't do things that are actively evil. I would go so far to say that the main characters in this movie are evil,
I would.
Definitely evil.
Yeah.
So,
but I find that
they're the villains in Get Out, but minus the racial element, right?
Minus the racial element, I think with more characterization, because I find that.
Yeah. Well, they are the main characters. So you'd hope they get more characterization.
Yeah, but I find that characters that you hate and that you find evil, but you still completely understand why they're doing what they're doing, to be really fascinating. And that's why I enjoyed this film so much, because I love the idea that John Cusack's this sad, lonely puppeteer who can't get his career off the ground, and he has to take low-level jobs, and he's unsatisfied in his marriage because of it, because she's basically unsatisfied with him. And then the way in which he feels like he can take over John Malkovich's body. And like, again, it's a dark film, but there are spots of humor. And like when it flash forwards 8 months and he's like this renowned puppeteer, and they have that like little like 60-minute doc on how he's become a puppeteer. I found that to be quite funny.
Yeah, that was good. But also they say within the movie that it's been 8 months. And like that's like, oh, he's become very successful in 8 months. But also they're like, and now Maxine is no longer. People are questioning Maxine. Blah blah. Blah. It's been 8 months. This is not like a 20-year retrospective. And also within that, it doesn't look like Lottie and the old people have moved since the last scene. It's like that I thought was weird.
That is true.
Because it looks like they're sitting in the exact same room in the exact same clothes. That was confusing to me.
That I did think about. I think that's a bit of a
the temporal context
movie mistake,
completely out of whack.
And a bad film. This is not bad.
It's not Shakespearean, that's for sure.
Yeah. Oh, God. Maybe we can dig into Shakespeare opinions at the end of the podcast.
No, absolutely not. We're done with your bad takes.
Before we run down that rabbit hole, there were some things I wanted to specifically mention that I thought were quite genius about the film, and I will use that. Before
you say that, I would like to just say one thing because we just mentioned Cameron Diaz as Lottie. Very different role for Cameron Diaz.
Yeah, but she's great.
I'm not used to her doing these type of roles. Based on when I grew up, I'm used to like her doing
Mask,
more of the
Shrek comedy,
like comedies,
Yeah.
Like more silly comedies where she kind of plays like a doofus or a dummy. And no, I may have actually told you this before or mentioned it on the podcast itself, but the inspiration for Anna Faris's character in Lost in Translation supposedly is Cameron Diaz, because also I'm sure I mentioned this on the podcast, maybe even last week. The doofus boyfriend or fiance in Lost in Translation is supposed to be Spike Jonze. It's supposed to be Spike Jonze, so that all ties.
It all comes together.
That would be a double feature. Ooh.
Lost in Translation's good, but not great in my opinion.
Not as good as this.
I think that like obviously all the performances are great, but I think especially Cameron Diaz, because
Catherine Keener was nominated for an Oscar for this.
She's fantastic. John Cusack is amazing. But there was at one point where I just like, and very early on, I just stopped seeing her as Cameron Diaz, and the fact that someone who's so typecast into certain roles, and just within minutes, it just like becomes this character for the entirety of the film and consistently delivers a great performance. I was the most impressed with her.
Also, speaking of Cameron Diaz, it's weird that no one's really noticed or talks about the fact that she's been retired for 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
She hasn't made a movie since 2014, which is
she's really slowed down. Who's that Jason Segel comedy?
Yeah, the Sex Tape, I think.
Sex Tape.
Or it was the other woman. I can't remember which one was her last movie, but
it's one of those bad comedies.
But yeah, that's what I know Cameron Diaz from. Like those type of the schlock comedies.
Yeah.
And so it's weird seeing her in this, but yeah, she's like retired. She hasn't slowed down. She's full on retired. Speaking of also retired, Jason Segel doesn't do much anymore, but that's beside the point.
No. Well, he kind of did some more serious stuff in the last few years, but he's also basically stopped. But anyways.
Also, I bet he gets that sweet How I Met Your Mother royalty money.
Oh, yeah, they all do. It's like Friends. They just keep making money off of it anyways.
Yeah.
But anyways, so kind of jumping into the aspects of the film I thought were so great. So a few particular scenes. So I think one is the scene where Malkovich goes into his own head, and you have that scene where he sees only like versions of himself, and I thought that was so interesting because it's like he's viewing the world from a narcissistic point of view, which again is kind of the point of the film, but he's in it, and this is kind of where it gets meta, I guess, because they already said that someone's already in there, and like what effect that will have. It's like he's seeing him the way that the people inside his head would see him, and like because there's someone already in there, that's like kind of why he's seeing himself. And I thought that was really smart, and it was funny, but also like it had a lot to deal with, like, again, the themes and the ideas of the film. And even again, like, there's probably one of my favorite sequences in the film in terms of how it's filmed and done.
Oh, you're talking about
what it says
when they're in the
chase through the subconscious.
That's that's the coolest set piece.
I thought that was great because like it is the time when you're giving a full background or even some characterization to John Malkovich's character within the film.
John Malkovich was
you understand,
great in this.
Yeah,
on all levels.
He had a lot of like room to play around, and like a lot of versatility shown, I think. But I love that scene because it shows a lot of what his childhood was like and how like kind of damaged it was in a sense. And I wonder how much of that is true, or Kaufman just being like, yeah, I'm treating him as basically a character. But I found it so interesting that Maxine and Lottie are confronting their own problems within the problems of John Malkovich's subconscious. And like, this is what I mean why I wish I had more time to like dissect and like properly digest the film.
We both watched the movie this morning, and so which was maybe a mistake. I could have watched this a couple days ago. And I would recommend you watch Adaptation maybe like 2 days before.
Yeah, I will
ruminate
because there's so much to unpack in that sequence, and how Malkovich's childhood and what Lottie and Maxine are going through, and the way that like certain actions play out in certain aspects of his subconscious. I thought it was like, it's brilliant. And as it was happening, it was like, it's one of those like film student moments where you're like, there's so much here. There's so much that's like amazing to dissect and analyze, but like, I'm also just loving the way it's filmed and the camera movements and the way it's all like being done. It's just, I think there's just so much subtext.
With the camera work, how it's all folding on itself. It's fantastic. And I do love the little snippets you get of John Malkovich's life. I can't remember, but there's one where it's like, I can't remember what exactly it is, but it's John Malkovich, the actor, in like a wig, trying to supposedly being young, and it's like he has a girlfriend next to him, like maybe breaking up with him. Can't remember, but I thought all of that was really funny. Or when he's pissed himself in the bus, all that stuff is fantastic.
Or the move from underneath the house to being in like his bathroom, and like that camera switch there, and I thought that was a really stunning sequence. And then when they all fall out together at the end, and I love this detail, and it is the mark of a very good writer, I think, to be able to do this, because on top of like all the philosophy and how deep and ingenious and really unpredictable and very original this film is, like the fact that when John Cusack originally goes into the town, he's like, I have this piece of wood with me, but like now it's not here. And then when he's finally kicked out, they don't draw attention to it. It's just like he's got it in his hand again, and it's just like
I would say they draw.
Like I love the symbolism of that. There's no like close up of his hand, and no one says like, oh, what's that stick of wood in your hand?
But the camera definitely lingers on it. I would say, if I remember correctly.
In a sense, but it's not as. I don't think it's as overt as other.
He doesn't hold it up.
Films would portray it.
Point to it and being like,
Ayo. Well, and there's no one being, and he's not like looking at it for like 20 seconds, being like, it's weird that I have this now, or a character being like,
true.
Where'd you get that stick? Right? There's nothing like corny or cheesy like that. It is subtle in a way, and I think that it's very successful in that. And I love that, because it's like a piece of him was always a part of John Malkovich, because he couldn't really let it go. But then he's forced out. He didn't choose to let it go. He's been pushed out, and that just breeds his own sense of loneliness. And of course, we get to the ending, where, which we can talk about now, because we're not really talking about this film in any kind of linear fashion.
No, absolutely not. We haven't even talked about the monkey.
The monkey as well. That was also such a strange, but also
I was totally
really great part of it.
I was there for it. It pulled it off.
Again, it was weird, but they pulled it off, because then even the monkey has this little flashback to like, because at first for a while it's like it's a joke that like, oh, she's taking the monkey to see a psychiatrist and like childhood trauma and this and that, and then like when she's locked up in the cage,
has a character arc. I read a
Yeah,
Letterboxd review that was like, even the
It
ape
does.
has a character arc.
Yeah.
Also,
But
is
again,
it an ape or a monkey? I think it's an ape. Whatever.
yeah.
When
But
there's
even,
an uprising, they'll come and kill me. Whatever.
yeah.
Planet
Also
of the
great
Apes
films, but I
style.
know you don't like them, so we'll
I
move on.
like the first one. I like the first one.
Man, the later ones are so good. But anyways,
Rise of the Planet
they
of the Apes is a good movie.
War of the Planet of the Apes is a brilliant film. But anyways, I think that
No.
in that scene when John Cusack ties up and all that stuff to Cameron Diaz is like, when that started happening, I was like, this film's really going to like a really like fucked up and dark place. I didn't think it'd be headed towards.
Yeah,
but then within that is like
that
that flashback. Yeah, and within that there's that flashback of the monkey and the ape having like its own flashback, what happened in its childhood and like how it frees her and all that. It's just like, wow, that's just like, that adds to the film, and not in a substantial way, but in a way that's like, it just gives it more texture and like more layers to it. And I really, enjoyed that aspect as well.
I also to me the part of the film we kind of talked about our negatives earlier. The part of the film that interests me the most is also the part that I'm definitely the least qualified to talk about, is the element, there are two elements. The idea of Catherine Keener, she doesn't really care for John Cusack, but what she does care about is being, or Maxine for the most part at the start, she cares about being loved through the eyes of like two people at the same time.
Yeah.
She's like, John Malkovich loves me, but also I can see that
Lottie
behind
loves
there. Maxine, I meant Lottie earlier. I can see that.
That's
Lottie
a great point.
And that to me really was like, that's so interesting from a character
That's so
perspective.
true. Well, and
that's why she's into it.
Yeah, and that adds to the overall theme of the film, which is like, your own narcissism makes you more lonely, because in trying to have two people love her, it's like it separates her further as well. She ends up in a place where she's even more distant than she was before. That's a great point. Yeah,
what the other element that interested me, sorry for interrupting you, is neither of us are qualified to talk about this, so we can't linger on it too much because I don't know how it holds up actually. But the transsexual, transgender element related to the character, that was really interesting to me. That it makes sense that if you would put yourself through the eyes of a person whose gender is different than you, maybe it would like kind of unlock something for you. That to me, that was super interesting. I would love to hear like, or read a piece by like a transgender person to hear their thoughts on like what they think what they think of the film and how it represents that. I'd be super interested in that. But
I would too, actually.
From what the film presents, that was really fascinating to me. And that was the film I wrote you about it before you watched it. Like that I wrote you like at the 40-minute mark, there's something really unexpected. It's like, of all the things I'd heard about this movie, I had never heard about this element.
Me neither. And it becomes, and I think that subtext actually stays present throughout, because because every time Lottie like comes back up, and her character arc is, and there's so much subtext you could read into. You could even read into how John Cusack putting her in a cage is also like a metaphor for how patriarchal society puts down
and there's that women
who want to become transsexual.
There's that whole scene at his office when he's like, snap out of it basically.
And there's that there is such a fascinating subtext to it as well. And even even within that John Malkovich scene I talked about, where he only sees himself, like there's a lot of John Malkovich's head on women's bodies, and I think that's a really interesting aspect of the film as well.
That's actually one of the scenes they show the behind the scenes of within Adaptation.
Okay. I can't wait to see Adaptation now.
There are elements of Charlie Kaufman as portrayed by Nicolas Cage visiting the set of the film.
I can't wait to kind of see what that film adds to this, because for me, I think both those aspects are very fascinating, and some of the best parts of the film. But I just liked how, I think this film, more than any other film I've seen before, really explores what like our individual subconsciouses mean to us as like human beings, as well as like if you had the opportunity to step into someone else's subconscious, how for some people that would widen their worldview, and for others how that would shrink it and make it even more narrow than it was before, depending on your personal experiences as a human being. And I think that to me is so interesting, because for Lottie, like it opens her mind, but for John Cusack's character, it really distorts it, and it makes him so hyper focused on one specific thing. And I just find that to be so interesting, that like these two people that have a connection, that do love each other on some level, had completely fundamental experiences within someone else's subconscious. And I think that is I think that is so interesting within the film. And it's what we talked about last week with Amadeus, or a lot of films. This is one of those films I absolutely love, where like this film has that like base theme idea, and then all the character interactions and motivations and developments like feed into that. It's just that this film does it in a way that's like even more creative and more, and I don't like the term of like, this film's original, therefore you should watch it, but like I've never seen a film like this, like ever.
Yeah, that's what I have to say about Adaptation next week.
Yeah.
That is a movie. I've never seen a film like that ever.
And that's what I mean, is like, out of the two Charlie Kaufman films I've seen, both are like unlike any other film I'd ever seen.
So that's what's exciting about actually exploring his filmography.
Yeah, it really is. I really am excited to explore
like you're
more
venturing
of it.
off into new territory almost.
Yeah, and you know that with each film he does, you'll get something not just different from other things you've seen before, but something different from himself.
Yeah,
and that's very exciting.
Definitely. And in regards to this film, I also just thought that the whole idea of there's just a whole bunch of people so unhappy in their own lives, and they're such losers that they just, including John Cusack, who just want to be someone else. John Cusack's like that, and so is and so are everyone else who pays $200 to be John Malkovich.
Yeah, and I like how
it paints a picture of this really sad society. Even just for 15 minutes, those people want to be someone else.
And at first, they never properly, I don't think they properly explain the reason why the office space has like a half lower ceiling. They explain it in like this video, but then like they kind of make it clear that that's kind of bullshit. But I like the narrative reason of that, because for so long I was like, why? Just, I don't know why. But then as it goes on, and as you just pointed out, the society of people who always want to be someone else. It's that idea of like, people are always like within their own heads and like minds.
They don't fit within their own space.
Down.
They don't fit within their own space.
Yeah, and they never feel comfortable with themselves. The body language and posture is always shrunken and lower. And as the film went on, and I understood that, I was like, that is a really like such an interesting creative choice.
No, and there's also an element of this where it's like coming to terms with yourself.
Being okay with yourself, and again, that's why I think John Cusack's character, while the most evil, is, I think for me, also the most interesting, because he never comes to terms with himself.
No,
and like that is seen, and like I think the ending to me, like for a minute, it took me a few minutes to digest, like to understand like if the film actually ended in that way, because it is so like kind of last minute and ballsy, but also perfectly works, which is the twist that
he's in the daughter.
Right. And like, he's basically chosen to live out his entire life of watching.
Live a new life, basically.
Right. To live a new life and watch these, the two people he loves most from that perspective, and to be trapped and to never ever really be himself again. And to make that sacrifice just so he can like hang around them, because like the loneliness and the isolation that he's kind of brought upon himself throughout the film, and rightly so, because again, he's not a good person.
He's a horrible person.
It makes him and it makes him want to, instead of being alone, he chooses that, and it's just like that is profoundly sad on just like a whole nother level, and just like it's so weird and creepy. And of course, I mean, we haven't even talked about it, but because I don't think you and I could at this time, because again, having just seen it really properly go into it, but voyeurism, just like from a voyeuristic standpoint, just like, and I didn't even think about that till we were talking about it, but like
voyeurism is such a film studies buzzword that you can throw around whenever, but I think it very much does apply to this one.
It fits this, it fits it perfectly, because like it's something that we talked about with A Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which I hadn't seen before, and I think this does similarly, which it's not just about the person who's watching from the outside in, but also like it relates to how people view that person who's being the watcher. And I think this does that very, very well, in a very different way, but I think to the same effect. And I think there's so many levels and layers to this film, and I think the ending just like it hits that perfect note of just like, wow, what a kind of cliffhanger ending to have. But also like I feel like I finished the film having a sense of like, this is I love this film, but also like I feel sad. like I feel like I feel empty.
No. I'm so interested in next week's discussion. And
yeah, actually, I can't wait to see it.
I think we should watch it together. Watch it maybe together.
Yeah, I'm down for that. Yeah.
I was trying to find if I can get a Blu-ray of it, but Amazon doesn't seem to have any here. So I'll have to figure something out.
Not a Blu-ray. I thought I saw a DVD of it the other day.
Even the DVD seemed like it was out of stock on Amazon. But
okay.
And I would love to see if there's a commentary track from Jones and Kaufman, because that would be an extra level of meta. But I don't know. That'd be exciting. But that film also profoundly sad for the most part. But it's funny that you said earlier that you found John Cusack to be the most interesting character, because I actually found that it was Maxine who I found to be
really
most intriguing character, because she the whole element that I brought up with the living in somebody else's body. I'm trying not to say too much, because I was listening back to the last episode when editing it, and I say it way too much. But
well, that's because you and I both listened to this other podcast where like a fan of that podcast pointed out how many times they say
No, it was a different word, but whatever. It was not It was like.
A like, yeah. Yeah.
No, even just as like it's not nice to hear someone go over and over and over again. So I'm trying to be better. But the whole element with Maxine, where she can only love, she likes the whole Maxine being Lottie being in John Malkovich, because she can feel loved by two people at the same time. But then the whole confrontation with Lottie at the end, and the fact that she chooses to live her life for a while with John Cusack as John Malkovich, but then decides to basically have a lesbian relationship at the end with Lottie and raise this child together. Not that I was like, wow.
Also,
they get a happy ending. Look,
they do. Well, in a sense, I mean, is it? Yes, they're together and they have their kid, but their kid isn't really theirs, is it? And because it's also John Cusack now, so that's what I mean. And John Malkovich, right? Malkovich. So like that's like the ending is like it's the way it plays with so many different emotions, I think is really well done. But as you pointed out, 1999 was a hallmark year for transgender film then.
Oh, you're right. I forgot about
The Matrix.
The Matrix.
Yeah, very progressive year. But this one's more overt, I think, than that film is. Well, obviously, because this film's actually like dealing with people who want to be transgender, people who are like in an active lesbian relationship.
Yes, I would say like this movie actually names it, but The Matrix, like all that,
and it's a part of its plot.
But the entirety of The Matrix is about one element.
Yeah, the subtext
is
of that
entirely about that. I do love the quote that Keanu Reeves didn't know while making it that it was about that. But also, Keanu Reeves.
No, I can see why you wouldn't think it was.
Anyway, I'm pretty sure I read that he's actually dated a transgender woman. So like,
good for him.
He's a cool dude.
He's a cool dude.
Also,
he's a very cool dude.
The music, cool, good movie. You should watch it.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch that soon. Very soon, online.
Maybe. I don't know if that's legal here, Ryan. It's in theaters right now, but I don't know if it's legal to rent online here because it's.
Is it not here yet?
It's in theaters, but I don't know if it's on VOD in the UK. I don't know.
I'll check Amazon and some other stuff.
Don't get it.
But if not, no, I'm not. If not, then I'll
don't
wait
make me call the
time.
cops on you.
I mean, the cinemas will probably close again in like a month here. So.
Oh yeah, it's right. Don't go to the movie theater right now. Not a good idea.
Better see Tenet again before cinemas
Ryan,
close.
Absolutely not. I will not see you for 2 weeks if you do that. If you risk your life to go watch a mediocre movie, I will slap you across the face with a glove.
Mediocre. All right, let's calm down now before we say things we don't really mean. Okay.
Okay. Have we said all that we want to say, basically?
I think so. I think there are just also just to kind of call out some great scenes. I love the scene where, because it's sad but also very funny when John Cusack, already in John Malkovich's body, he's like doing his puppet show if John Malkovich is the puppet, and like that is quite funny, but it's also like I said, it's very sad because he's like that is his own parable of like how he sees his own life in existence, and now it's like the whole compounded because he's not even himself anymore.
The whole symbolism of the puppetry is fantastic anyway.
No, so like scenes like that I thought were great. I loved the device that John Malkovich actually found out, and I loved how that played out. You know, I thought the scene where the three of them are having a dinner together and they both jump on a Maxine at the same time I thought was also very funny.
Yeah, that's what I mean by the movie is very sexually fluid for a film from 1999.
It's weirdly progressive because as far as I know, other Charlie Kaufman films don't really jump into that kind of like gender dynamics.
Not that I've heard of, no. But
again, me neither. So
we haven't seen that much.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought, I guess for me, my final thoughts are I was completely enamored with this film. I thought, you know, for the first 20 minutes, I was like, this is really good. I'm really enjoying this. And then it kind of hit that first bit of like, whoa, this is going to be very different. And then it just kept doing that. And I haven't enjoyed watching a new film like this in a very, very long time. Because the only thing I predicted was that Lester was the builder of that building. I kind of figured that early on, but everything else I had, was completely new to me, and it surprised me. And the film is oddly moving in its own way. It is sophisticated and very original. And yeah, I thought it was a brilliant film, and one that I will definitely be rewatching, and I can't wait to rewatch because like Eternal Sunshine, I think on one viewing you get what it's going for. You get the arc of the characters. You love it at face value, but like the more and more you dig into it, because there's so much to dig into the film. Like I think, like that is when I think my appreciation for the film will come out even more so. And I can't wait to rewatch it. And you and I have talked about this. Like rewatchability for a film is actually really important.
Oh yeah.
And it's not something like most people consider. And I think this is an eminently rewatchable film. Because the fact that I finished it, because the fact that I finished it and I'm like, I can't wait to rewatch it again. Like it says a lot for how much I really admire and love this film.
Yes, Ryan. Before we sign off, I also share exactly your thoughts on the rewatchability of the film. This movie was very good, very, very good indeed. But before we sign off, Ryan, do you want to share your bad Shakespeare take?
Yes.
That you told me last night. So for context, I was texting Ryan last night because I was watching the Akira Kurosawa movie Throne of Blood, which is a Macbeth retelling set in feudal Japan. But Ryan already has shared on this podcast his thoughts on A Midsummer Night's Dream, which we both don't like. And I preferred reading Macbeth and I preferred reading Romeo and Juliet to A Midsummer Night's Dream. But Ryan, what is your bad film Shakespeare take?
I think that it is lazy and uninspired to just lift Shakespeare's literally exact dialogue and like put it into film.
The fact that you can fathom to say that is absolutely ludicrous.
I will say, hold on. that if it is placed, it depends on the aesthetic of the film. So, for example, the Michael Fassbender Macbeth.
I haven't seen it.
I think it's a very good film. And
all I know is that the guy went on to direct Assassin's Creed.
Yes, and that was not a good film.
No.
And I, the language fits that well, and it fits the style and the way it's shot and all that works well. Great. Other films,
like what?
That are you name one last night, which is the Romeo and Juliet.
The whole point of that is that it juxtaposes the old dialogue with the contemporary setting. That's literally
that's not interesting to me.
That's the most interesting. That is why I think that's probably, even though not the best, it's probably the most interesting Shakespeare adaptation, because it
interesting, yeah.
It sets it in like a crime-ridden Miami or whatever, but you've got them talking like Shakespeare. But that's
also, what I mean is
the fact that you say it's lazy to use his dialogue, his words are are considered like some of the best writing of all time, and that's what people praise nonstop. So the fact that you would go to say that
400 years ago. No, his writing is amazing. I'm not taking anything away from that.
I think it was written.
He was written he wrote a lot of his stuff in the 1600s. I thought.
I'm checking on.
Might be, but no, this is again why we don't. I'm not taking anything away from his writing.
You're right.
And even I hate A Midsummer Night's Dream, but the problem with that I have with that play and that book isn't the dialogue or the speech. It's just the story itself.
But you were complaining. But you were complaining about the dialogue being used in movies, and you don't like that. Which is because
insane. Because they're taking something from two different mediums and putting it in a very different medium. Look, for example,
it was meant to be spoken aloud.
For example, famous plays that have been made into films: 12 Angry Men, A Few Good Men, recently Fences.
Also, Amadeus.
It is not Amadeus. Those are not word for word straight from. Okay, well, yeah, we got the play.
Those aren't Shakespeare.
Right, well, we're just going to shoot that.
Shakespeare isn't.
It doesn't matter.
But also, Fences. I'm pretty sure it is word for word.
Shakespeare doesn't. There's a lot of overlap, but it is not. I don't think it's not. I don't.
Maybe
think
with some edits, I'm wrong, some scenes, but I'm pretty sure that's word for word. But anyway, Shakespeare is not any play. Shakespeare is Shakespeare.
But it doesn't. You cannot keep. That's like you and I are both incredibly excited for the new Last of Us show. Imagine if 90% of the dialogue was the exact same as what's in the game. Then you'd be like, well, that's kind of boring. Like, it's great dialogue.
We love The Last of Us, but The Last of Us, once again, is not Shakespeare because
it's different medium.
No,
different mediums shouldn't.
That's not just it, Ryan. That is, you can't just say that over and over again and expect to be right. That is,
but it is.
But Shakespeare is not.
I'm not expecting you to be
can't
right.
compare Ryan, you're comparing things that can't be compared. You can't compare all these other plays and all these things to Shakespeare. Shakespeare's
not above it.
He kind of is. I'm not. I don't think he's about.
So.
I would rather read a lot of different other books and reread A Midsummer Night's Dream, but that doesn't mean any less that Shakespeare isn't important.
He's one of, if not the greatest writer of all time.
Yes,
but
and his historical significance and the importance of his words, they were meant to be. They were meant to be said aloud. They are plays.
Plays. And they were
an adaptation of a play, and so we are getting nowhere.
Lifting it
you are
directly.
So goddamn wrong. It is.
It's why
unbelievable.
I don't care when Shakespeare stuff comes out. I'm just like, okay, well, I'm gonna have to decipher the language and listen to and listen to it, which is like, yeah, it's great. When you see it in a play environment, it's part of that atmosphere. But when you're watching a film, it doesn't flow with the way things are edited and the way things are the way that you act in film is very different than the way you act in a play. So the way that the words are being spoken in a film is more jarring than if it was being spoken in a play. That's what I mean by it's a different medium. The aspects of the medium that are carried out differently means that the words, the way that they're said and interpreted, carry out a different meaning. And I think it actually hurts Shakespeare's original words by doing that.
You're so unbelievable.
And that's my opinion. And in no way, because I know a lot of people have the same opinion you do, and I fully get why.
I'm gonna clip this discussion
that's
and
how
send
I feel.
it. I'm gonna clip this discussion and send it to my my high school English teacher. And
oh yeah, I mean, mine would be furious as well.
No, because it's like you're completely missing out on like the cultural historical significance of his dialogue and how you.
But you can get all that without putting it in film.
No, you don't. Right.
You can get that by reading his stuff, going to his plays, watching filmed live versions of his plays, which there are numerous versions of there out there you can watch. So it's like you're not doing anything new to this story. And again, I'm not saying that's 100% of the time, but I'm saying most of the time that's how I feel. Again, I'm not saying that's the case for everyone. It is this is 100% my opinion, but that's how I feel about it.
I'm gonna send.
I know it's infuriating, but
I legit I'm gonna email my high school English teacher and be like, please back me up on this.
Go for it.
Oh my God, that's just one of your worst takes that you've ever had on. You had a lot of like takes that I deem to be very bad, and this is like one of your worst.
No,
and I think this harkens back to like some of the early episodes of the podcast where we would just end it and like talk about
not an argument. Yeah.
Okay.
Also, massive disagreements.
So next week we're going to talk about
Adaptation. Continuing our Charlie Kaufman experience.
Yes. So you can find us at The Good, the Bad, and
Take
the
a breath.
Kino
Breathe. It's okay. All right. Yes, we disagree on that, but we love John Malkovich together. All right, it's great. There's some harmony and equilibrium within what's going on here.
You're dead to me.
Not much, but some.
You can find us at the. You've like made my voice raspy now, like low-key yelling at you. Okay.
Not bad.
I was when you were texting me that last night. I was.
Oh, I can tell it pissed
furious.
you off.
I was.
It was so funny.
So mad. Because it is like it's so okay. You can find us at The Good, the Bad, and the Kino. I'm so upset. You can find us at The Good, the Bad, and the Kino @gmail.com. Our Letterboxd accounts are linked in the description. Stay Kino, everybody. Also, you can just email us and tell us like you disagree with Ryan or like you disagree with me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. I'm just making sure that's balanced.
One-sided. Okay.
But yeah. Contact us there. I mean, again, we're always open for film suggestions. If we ever get an email or a text from these that says talk about this film, like we'd be down to do it. We're just waiting for it. So contact us there. We hope that you enjoyed this episode.
Talk about Gummo. We talk about Salo and 120 Days of Sodom.
Or Kids.
Or Salo and 120
as well.
Days of Sodom. You know about Salo, right?
Never heard of it.
Ryan, it's on the.
I can guess from its title.
No, it's part of the Criterion collection, and that's why it's kind of infamous. But basically,
why is it not, should it not be a part of the Criterion collection?
I haven't seen it, so I have no idea. But from what I understand, I have not seen it, and I don't think I will ever. But I'm pretty sure it involves the actors or characters in the film eating feces.
And that's all we have.
That's all we have for this week.
Everyone have a good week, and I promise that we will not be talking about that next week.
We won't talk about that movie ever.
No,
but now
we will not.
I've put that image in your head. I can't believe you've never heard of it. But
I'm glad I didn't. And
now you know.
Now I'm different.
The more you know. Stay Kino, everybody. Keep it Kino.
Thanks, guys. Watch John Malkovich if you haven't seen it, and Adaptation next week. So, Charlie Kaufman's great. Stay Kino, everyone.
Stay Kino. Bye, guys.
Bye.